welcome to the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna and Inamdar. The big story on the show continues to be the Chinese aggression on the line of actual control. In the last 24 hours, we've learned that the casualties on the Indian side went up to 20. There have been casualties on the Chinese side as well, though the Chinese have not bothered to put out those details at all. Meanwhile, the message from India is clear. In a statement this afternoon, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in no unequivocal terms, said that India is a peace-loving country, but if provoked, we can and will retaliate. The sacrifice of our soldiers will not be in vain. So what are the next steps that India can look at? We have an excellent panel of speakers lined up. We'll be speaking first up to former Army Chief General Bikram Singh. We're also going to be looking at the economic aspect of it, because that's how you hit them where it hurts. But before we begin, let's listen in to what the Prime Minister said today.
हमने हमेशा से ही अपने पड़ोसियों के साथ एक कोऑपरेटिव और फ्रेंडली तरीके से मिलकर काम किया है। हमेशा उनके विकास और कल्याण की कामना की है। जहां कहीं हमारे मतभेद भी रहे हैं, हमने हमेशा ही ये प्रयास किया है कि मतभेद विवाद न बने, डिफरेंसेस डिस्प्यूट्स में न बदले। हम कभी किसी को भी उकसाते नहीं हैं, लेकिन हम अपने देश की अखंडता और संप्रभुता के साथ समझौता भी नहीं करते हैं। जब भी समय आया है, हमने देश की अखंडता और संप्रभुता की रक्षा करने में अपनी शक्ति का प्रदर्शन किया है, अपनी क्षमताओं को साबित किया है। त्याग और तितिक्षा हमारे राष्ट्रीय चरित्र का हिस्सा है, लेकिन साथ ही विक्रम और वीरता भी उतना ही हमारे देश के चरित्र का हिस्सा है। मैं देश को भरोसा दिलाना चाहता हूं, हमारे जवानों का बलिदान व्यर्थ नहीं जाएगा। हमारे लिए भारत की अखंडता और संप्रभुता सर्वोच्च है, और इसकी रक्षा करने से हमें कोई भी रोक नहीं सकता। इस बारे में किसी को भी जरा भी भ्रम या संदेह नहीं होना चाहिए। भारत शांति चाहता है, लेकिन भारत उकसाने पर हर हाल में यथोचित जवाब देने में सक्षम है। और हमारे दिवंगत शहीद वीर जवानों के विषय में देश को इस बात का गर्व होगा कि वे मारते मारते मरे हैं।
So what facts are before us? Will this be resolved diplomatically with both sides saying, and China also saying on the face of it, that they want to cool down tempers? But does their behavior show that we can trust them in any way? Just to understand what really has happened in the Galvan Valley, I'm joined by a very special speaker, the best voice really there is on this subject, General Bikram Singh, former COAS, former Chief of Army Staff, is joining us now on the show. General Bikram Singh, thank you so much for speaking with us here at ET Now. We really appreciate your time and the perspective that you bring. Let me begin by asking you a question that many have been asking over the last few days. Why now? And what has led, in your view, to the Chinese behaving in this, crazy sort of behavior that we have seen over the last 48 to 72 hours in the Galvan Valley?
Well, Tamanna, I think, firstly, thank you for inviting me on your platform. After a long time, I'm discussing this with you. You see, the point is, China initially, when they took on this particular, action of theirs, which, spiraled into a face-off, I think was done with the motive of diverting the internal attention of the masses in China. The kind of pressure Xi Jinping is facing today in China. He's got his hands are full as far as his inadequacies in governance are concerned, which has led to, joblessness, shrinking economy. You have the relocation of manufacturing, some to India, other parts of Southeast Asia. What's happening in Hong Kong, Taiwan, with the United States. Things are bad. And there is a constituency, there is a sentiment that has been emerging, an anti-Xi Jinping sentiment that has been emerging. And I suppose initially when this was started, perhaps it was to divert the intention of the local people, of the domestic audience, towards something external, which is challenging. And China is known to, use such diversionary tactics. But somehow I feel that the situation which on the 16th, what happened is that a tactical operation turned into something far more uglier. And I think the last time we had bloodshed was in 1975. So after almost 45 years, we find this kind of an incident occurring on the line of actual control, which actually, if you ask me frankly, is something which is serious. And now, given the fact that we've had a statement coming from the Honorable Prime Minister, it goes to show that it definitely today is not any more a localized tactical action. But given the casualties on both sides, it has definitely entered the politico-military arena, where the Prime Minister has made a very nice statement today. I think it was an excellent statement, where he paid tribute to the martyrs, soldiers, 20 of them, an officer, and 20 other ranks who laid down their life in the line of duty in the best traditions of the Indian Army. And thereafter, of course, he's given a very befitting message to China that, look, we want to resolve this amicably. We want to be friends. We want to grow simultaneously in the same space. There's enough space in the regional and global context for both the giants to rise, Asian giants to rise. But then he's also given a red line that, look, as far as our sovereignty is concerned, our integrity is concerned, he'll not tolerate.
That's true, General Bikram Singh. But I want to understand what is the kind of option we have if we need to respond militarily. What are the options that we can look at the table? The statement right now, which has come from the foreign minister, and we have put across our point of view very strongly, also talks about, and both sides are now talking about managing this diplomatically, calming tempers down. But we heard that before Galvan Valley also happened. Are there military options we can look at?
Of course. Look, Tamanna, I think it may not be correct on my part as the former chief, since I am privy to all the plans, talking of anything which may sort of, I would say, impinge on the national security. I think that will not be in order.
Definitely not want that. Yes.
Yeah, so I will not get into specific options, but let's be very clear. The Prime Minister has made it very clear that, we are going to try and deal with this at the military, diplomatic and military levels through negotiations. Should that fail, we will use force. In other words, as far as the spectrum of conflict is concerned in the use of force, right from tactical arena going up to operational and strategic, he's opened the doors. Of course, with a proviso, with a caveat that it is the last resort. It is not going to be the first resort. It's the last resort. We are going to try our best to negotiate the whole thing to make sure we amicably resolve it through dialogue, through diplomacy. But should that fail, so in other words, we are going to be hoping for the best, but catering for the worst. Options are plenty. And let me tell you, the commanders on ground are fully, in picture of what is to be done. Whether it is achieving a local superiority in terms of occupying certain terrain, which will put the enemy on the back foot, or otherwise, I would not like to talk about these options, but options are plenty, let me tell you, to make sure we are able to safeguard our national interests.
In your experience, General Bikram Singh, and on the diplomatic side also, we've seen this as a common refrain with the Chinese. They say something and then do something quite different. We've seen that across the LAC over the last few weeks. This started in April, really. And now we're in a situation where there is a different kind of refrain in statements, but a different action on ground. How do we take this forward? How do we tread carefully going on from here?
Tamanna, first thing is to understand the methodology of operations of this country, which basically has opacity in its governance and its international affairs, the way it manages it. But yes, deceit and deception is something which is, I would say, one of the very important aspects they keep in mind always. If you read Sun Tzu's Art of War, that book very clearly mentions, in fact, at every stage, every page, Sun Tzu talks in terms of deception. He calls, war fighting as something which basically hinges on deception. So we cannot trust China, whether it's at the political level, at the strategic level, at the military level. We cannot take them for granted. They are known to use guile and deception as far as their negotiations are concerned. So from that point of view, you would have seen, the statements coming out from their ambassador in Delhi and from Beijing, their Ministry of External Affairs. They were pointing towards friendship. They wanted to resolve it amicably, but then see what has happened on ground. So in other words, there's a dichotomy at the top.
Were you shocked? Were you shocked, sir, with what happened in ground, that this kind of an escalation with casualties of this number on the Indian side, after a gap of 45 years, what is the kind of situation that could have led to that?
You see, what I feel is that, and I personally feel that, that weapons have not been used. These are the inputs that are coming in. In other words, this has happened with the use of force, fist fights, using your clubs, covered with barbed wire, stones, all these kind of things have been used, but no bullets have been fired. That's what I was told. If that be so, then I suppose, taking cue from what has happened in the past, for example, in North Sikkim, where we had fist fights and all that, perhaps using the same kind of a template, they have tried to actually up the ante in that format. So therefore, what I feel is that it is something which is actually not done by a professional army, because professional armies, abide by certain Geneva Conventions and rules of engagement. They don't resort to this kind of a nonsense. So this is something which was unexpected. Definitely it was shocking, as you asked me, and difficult to reconcile, because we've had for the last so many years, 45 years, peace and tranquility. In fact, the four treaties of 1993, Peace and Tranquility Accord, in 1996, the CBMs of 2005, and your Border Defense Cooperation Agreement of 2013, they have provided very robust mechanisms on ground, which actually have dissuaded both the countries from going beyond a point.
No, so that's the point, General Bikram Singh, that there are mechanisms on ground which have ensured that while there has been this back and forth along the LAC, for a while the Chinese start building stuff across the LAC, they try and do these incursions and then go back out. It's never come to this extent. What has been different this time round?
Tamanna, I would attribute this to actually the immaturity on the part of the Chinese leadership, the PRS leadership. Look, let me tell you, as against Indian army, which is battle hardened on the grounds provided by the proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir, our people are disciplined. They understand what is the fire discipline, when to open fire, when to use force. Our people are very, very careful in that regard. Chinese army after the Vietnam War has not fought any war. In that as well, they performed very poorly. The other thing is we have conscription, the PLA. Conscription is that you have a doctor, an engineer, or a guy doing a civil job, for that matter, even a journalist, coming over to PLA, doing 3-4 years over there, and if he is found fit, he continues. In other words, this gentleman has not been nurtured in an academy like ours, National Defense Academy. I went through a 4 years course, 3 years at the National Defense Academy and 1 year at the Indian Military Academy. And then I've done large number of courses. So the point is, we nurture our leadership and our people to make sure they become good leaders. China doesn't do that. So perhaps I think it was also on account of the inadequacies as far as the leadership is concerned, who are not able to control this kind of a, very, very, I would say, unprofessional conduct by PLA.
Absolutely. Just in the end, General Bikram Singh, a message for the martyrs and their families. These are most distressing, pictures that we've seen. We've all lost these brave men as a nation.
With our soldiers, their families, it's a big family. Our loyalties to our soldiers, they spill over and get into the families. We are very committed to the families as well. This is the only organization which, beyond its employees, the soldiers, I would say, it looks at the families. So there is going to be a commitment towards the families. So the message as the former chief I would only give is that, one, their sacrifice would not go in vain, which is actually reinforcing what the Honorable Prime Minister has said. And number two, that the Indian Army shall always remember the sacrifice and continue to honor their families and give them all the respect and address all their aspirations in times to come, and salute them forever for what their husbands have done.
Thank you so much, General Bikram Singh, for speaking with us. Former Army Chief there, General Bikram Singh, sending out the right note that we're more than capable of an answer. We'll of course have to wait and see how the diplomatic side of this unfolds over the next few days.